Welcome to the Don't Let That Go Over Your Head podcast, starring Q the Boss.
Yo, 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 yo. Welcome back to another episode of Don't Let That Go Over Your Head podcast. They call me Q the Boss. Guys, I'm always excited when we do this podcast. You know, I'm always excited to go live with you guys and talk about different topics. Today, we're talking about a special topic, a very, very special topic. And today's about a mother's love. Let me see them heart emojis, guys. If you have a mother and you love your mother, or even if you lost your mother, let's give them their flowers. A mother's love. A mother's love is like no other, guys. Tap that screen. We are giving our mothers the flowers today that they deserve. You know, listen, when Father's Day come, we doing the same thing. So today we giving the mothers their flowers, though. We want to celebrate you guys, right? A lot of times we don't understand. There's nothing like a mother's love. You know, I'm a father, but I know a mother is different when it comes to loving you. Because sometimes we don't get the love because of the fact that we give tough love. And when a child becomes an adult, they learn that the balance is extremely necessary. A mother is a nurturer, and the nurturers tend to get the flowers when you're younger, right? But it's about understanding the providers, but not only the providers, the tough love. This is the balance that we both need. When something is neglected or not there in a home, you will see that the children will have some kind of an issue. And today, a lot of the men that we see and the women that we see are products of broken homes. They're products of broken homes. Sometimes I hear men talk about, and these guys are men that may have had good structures, but then when they see another man who has a weak foundation, rather than being a contractor and coming up to his brother and help build up his foundation stronger, he would rather talk about his brother rather than help his brother have a stronger foundation. I've noticed the women who grew up maybe with stronger mothers or better structures laugh at women who didn't have a good structure. Life is always about the way you learn is based on nurture versus nature and also the environment you come from. The word and the term, rather, product of your environment is real. A lot of people are a product of their environment. Because if the mind can't see it, the mind can't believe it. If the mind isn't exposed, the mind will never expand based on the fact that the mind isn't exposed. You have to be exposed to what you want to project in life. You have to put your children around what you want your children to become. It is naturally easier for a child to be successful when they grow up around nothing but successful people. To the people that have made it past certain levels, knowing that their circumstance was so hard, I'm gonna give you your flowers today. And I'm gonna go even further to the mothers who have single-handedly, and when I say single-handedly, everyone knows the body operates better with two. We have two eyes, right? We have two ears, right? We have two lips. We have two legs. We have two arms. We have two hands. Everyone knows that it is better, right, when there's two, right? Think about this, right? When you have these conversations, a lot of times we have issues with a person because of the fact that the way they were raised. But the one thing I've learned is the things that the mothers have been able to do with one hand. I want to give you your flowers. A lot of times we debate about men and women topics. And the sad part about the men and women topics, you have a lot of women who are very strong complaining about leading their homes when they're very strong. When you naturally come from a very strong woman, it is more feasible to you or more feasible of you to be a leader because of the fact that you may have come from a great leader as a woman. Sometimes when you come from a single mother, right, they raise you to be stronger because of the fact that they know that in order for you to survive, even if you are alone, I have to raise your strength. To my women who are strong, and I say this word with conviction, independent women, I want to give you your flowers. But we have to discuss this term independent because it's going very loose when speaking on men and women. When I say independent, right, sometimes we base independence based on the lack of choice. If you don't have a choice and you're doing that job, I'm giving you your flowers tenfold. There are some people who use the term independent as a means of a stature, of bragging, and that's where the foolish mentality steps in, the way of logic. Bragging about being an independent woman, right, it becomes delusional. Bragging about being an independent man is delusional because last time I checked, everything works better where there's two. So sometimes when I had these conversations, I had people say, I'm an independent man or I'm an independent woman. I think when you say self-made, there is no self-made without God in the midst of it. You will never self-make anything if God is not allowing it. Everything we have in life is because of an allowance. Someone has to allow it. Someone is the gate that holds the key to it, right? So when you have these conversations, we have to learn how to be logical. Because I'm going to tell you something, the most successful people on earth are genuinely the most humblest people. The lack of humility shows the lack of success when you're dealing with humans. A humble human usually projects how they feel about themselves. In most cases, when you see a person who is unhappy, they will project their unhappiness on others, ultimately trying to bring people to their level. But the one thing I love is how I saw my mother sacrifice. The things I seen a woman do, I could never in a million years say that a man is stronger than a woman mentally. I'm gonna say this on record again, and somebody's gonna get mad. I don't care what you say. I'm a very strong man, but I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. A woman's mental strength is the strongest I have ever seen in my life. In my life. My mother was able to rub pennies together and make gold. I don't know how we survive to the magnitude of what we survive. Now that I'm the adult paying the bills and I realize what my mother made, I'm so impressed by what little we had, but how much more she made it feel like we had. I'm impressed. I'm so impressed because of my mother's willingness to still fight no matter what. My mother was always willing to fight. My ladies on my live right now, and my men, if you're on my live, give them their flowers and give them their heart emojis. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, when we sit there and fight, right, we don't realize that the worst fight is when you're fighting with the best partner you could ever have. A woman is the ultimate compliment to a man that you could ever see in life. A man is the ultimate compliment to a woman that more than anything you could ever envision in your life. The ultimate compliment is a man and a woman working together. This is what God ordained. This is what he wanted. When I sit back and see my sister struggling so hard financially to provide for babies that they didn't make alone, it frustrates me because as a man that comes from a single mother, it hurts because in retrospect, I cannot sit there and act like this is not a problem. When there's a song, the guy said, my partner got mad at him because his partner wasn't taking care of his kids. And you know what he said? He said, you're wrong for it. And it made him mad. It made him mad. To my brothers that's not taking care of their children, if you messed up the first 6, 7, 10, 15 years of your child's life, tomorrow's another day. It's better late than never. I've seen women literally have, oh my God, we talk about minimum wage jobs and still put that food on that table. Still keep them bills paid. And my brothers, we cannot leave these women out here to take care of these babies by themselves, man. You watching a lot of very aggressive men grow older, angry and bitter because of the lack of. The lack of a father teaches the boy how to be lack of a man. When there's no man present, there will be a boy present times 10. We complain about the boys, but we don't see that there's no men present. We don't realize that the unification of working together is the ultimate prize. My ladies, I want to commend you for getting all of your degrees and your accolades. I'm so fascinated by how many women are doing so much and willing to further their educations later in life, also going back further in their lives. I know a nurse right now who makes $100,000 who's going back now to become a nurse practitioner at 40. And it's not a competitional thing when we speak economics. It's more of a self-worth thing. If you don't have a self-worth, you're never going to go after what you feel like you deserve. Self-worth is more valuable than anything. Loving yourself is cool, but you have to also value yourself. Because you cannot complain about what you're not getting when you're not giving yourself the fair accolades to get what you deserve. You got to go get more. We got to take care of our babies. I'm sitting here every day watching these women provide, sacrifice, fight for their families. And a lot of these men sit down and we complain. I keep telling them the fight is not the fight. The fight is the mental illness that's going on in our families. Too many people are literally procreating the same mentality as the dads that they complain about. Let me say that again. Too many men nowadays are creating the same men they complain about. And ladies, I'm going to say this on record and some of y'all are going to get mad. The same boys are the men that you're complaining about dating are the men that you're creating. You hear that? The same men that you're complaining about dating are the men that you're raising. And this is a reality. We complain about all these things, but we don't see that we have to fix it. My women have literally picked up the torch for the inability of the men to keep fighting. When the men stopped fighting, the women started fighting. When the men stopped being men, the women started stepping it up. And yeah, we complain about their masculinity, but they had no choice. They had no choice. A lot of these women had no choice. In order to raise a man, this woman had to become masculine. In order to survive, this woman had to become more masculine. And now you complain about the masculinity of the women when they had no choice. They had no choice. They say in Rome, you act like the Romans. This woman's situation permitted her to be feminine. She had to step it up and get into her masculinity and get jiggy with it. She had to get busy. And this is the truth. But sometimes we get so infatuated with the false realities of life. We got to see what it is. Mental maturity is a term of when a mother, right, dies, right? No, I didn't read that. Hold on. Let me say this again. Sometimes we got to learn that when you want certain things, you have to allow yourself to build towards the certain things. What I want right now in 2024, someone asked me the other day, and I want y'all to hear this. They said, yo, Q, what would be your ultimate gift for yourself for your birthday? You know what I said? I said, more men and women that look like me having healthy families building. More people helping each other, getting over our mental illness and our traumas and our problems. More people stop judging each other, because one thing about life is the book is not the whole chapter that you walked in on. It's 100-page, 100-chapter book. You walk in on chapter 7 and you think you know the whole book. No, that's not how it goes, ladies and gentlemen. We got to learn how to procreate healthy families. My ladies have been fighting for years alone. There's a statistic right now that shows how many single families are in America right now. This is not a one-day problem. This has been generational. There are too many single families right now in America. And it took 2 people to make these children. 82 million mothers are single parents. 82 million. What is that on the percentage side? It's like a 70%. And when you look at these numbers, they're so far and extreme. I'm sitting here as a man today, as a grown man, and saying, my life made me so hyper aggressive. 40%. So look, I didn't even know how. Look at it from a black standpoint too. The total America right now, single mothers, 80% is single mothers right now. I told you like 70, 80%. I knew it was more than 40. I thought that was just Caucasian. But when you look at this narrative, it's an increasing narrative. It is so selfish of a man and a woman, right, to say, I'm gonna take my child away from one of the parents. It is so selfish of a parent to not look at their child's life and just choose automatically what is right or what's wrong for the child when a parent has no issues other than they're not a good mate with you. I see some women, and I'm gonna say this, and I have to say this, they project their feelings on their children, meaning the father and them didn't get along, so what they do is they project how they feel on their child. They make their child hate their dad because of the fact that they didn't work out. It's sad when you put a child in a space where you're telling them adult problems and you're not allowing them to get to know their own parent. Let the child come to the conclusion of who their parent is. If your son's mother is no good, let your son see it or your daughter see it. If your son's father is no good, then let your child see it or your children see it. Don't make the choice for them by pushing your own agenda and narrative. This is so unhealthy, right? But when we talk about these things, people get offensive and offended. I know for a fact, I'm not going to say, as a father, I'm dealing with a mother of my child who believes in projecting. She creates a narrative for my child, which is so unfair. And anyone that understands, if you have more than one child by more than one woman, right? It's sad. The child that lives with you will ultimately see more of you and enjoy you more because the other child don't live with you. But what happens is the way the mother can spin it is that he loves the other child more than you. And it's unfair because it doesn't make sense. If I'm good enough to be with any of my children, I'm gonna wanna love all my children. I've never loved one of my child any different from either. I love all my children in their own unique ways. They're different. But in the same breath, I still love all my children. But when you have these conversations to push a narrative to an an innocent mind can be controlled by the person that is supposed to be loved by. But what you're doing is you're projecting your insecurities on your child and ultimately making an angry, a hyper-aggressive child. And this is why you can have a woman who's never dating anyone. Now she's 17, 18, 19 years old, who's never been in a serious relationship say, I don't respect men, I don't need a damn man. Where did you think that came from? That came from a very toxic mother. So when you listen to a woman say, I don't need a man, and then you meet a young woman who says, I don't need a man, you can see that she came from a very toxic relationship, the mother, and all she did was project her toxicity onto her child. And now her child is talking based on no experience. She's talking based on what her mother projected on her. That's how you can program a child to talk the same way you speak. These are generational traumas that we can pass on to our children. But when you speak this narrative, people don't understand the power of influence to a very impressionable mind is key. The power of influence to a very impressionable mind is key. I know guys right now who are broke, right? They're broke. And I promise you, Tyler, the woman knew she was a broke before she had a child with him. And yet and still, she talks about him being broke, but he'll still give his children his last. A man is, that to me, that is a very good man. He just don't got it. And we knew that before you got intimate with him. When I look at the fact of the matter is we look at all the wrong narratives, right? Everything we do right now in our society, in our culture, is all about competition and being toxic. I think toxic is more healthy nowadays than actually being healthy. There are minds that are literally has fungus and gangrene and poisoned, and these are the minds that's teaching you how to think. Being toxic has become cool. When you listen to some things people say, you're like, damn, you toxic. But they don't see it. It's the lack of. It's the lack of resources, the lack of the influence. It takes two, guys. It's a village. But when you have these conversations, most people don't project how they should feel. They project how they feel. So when a person is projecting how they feel, if they're not happy, they're going to project nothing but unhappiness to you. Not noticing that you're becoming unhappy because of the fact that the energy you're getting from is someone that's unhappy. The reason why you can state this statement to be facts, watch this narrative. If I'm sitting in my house, my best friend calls my phone, my best friend say, yo, I just had a fight with my woman, right? Now he starts telling me about his woman. Naturally, a person that's getting that information, they're gonna start talking about their relationship also, ultimately being upset with their mate because their best friend is mad. See, what I'm just telling you right now is you can transfer energy. Meanwhile, me and my woman never had a problem. But now my energy is negative because of the fact that the power of influence by someone you love. When he called my phone, he told me what was going on in his relationship, ultimately made me want to, what do you call the term? I want to relate. So now I'm going to act like I'm having the same problems. Or we're going to try to play one up. Who got the worst situation? This is the conversations we got to have. When I sit down and watch my sisters out here struggling, fighting every day to keep a roof over their children's heads. And then I look at us as men. And I say this on record with conviction. My children are not my only children. I think the world is our children. If you know you're a real man and you know that you're a real father and you don't believe that the world should be the example of you, then you are not a good man. Because in reality, if I know I'm a good man, I want to be examples for more young men who don't have access to me. They don't have a father like me. So the fact they don't have a father like me, I want to give them a version of a good father so they can see something to compare it to. It's one thing when you saw nothing but bad men, ultimately you're going to behave just like the bad men because that's all you've seen. So therefore, we need more examples. Of course, a child is no good when all they seen was no good. Of course, a child don't believe when they haven't seen that they can achieve. It's natural human instincts we're talking about. In order to believe something, you have to see something. Of course, a person talks negative about marriage. Why? Because all they seen was bad marriages. I'm gonna go on record and say this. I've been married before, and my marriage failed. And my marriage failed for multiple reasons. But one of the main reasons I'm gonna go into why my marriage failed is because of the fact that I didn't even understand what a marriage really was. I went into a marriage still dating with a boyfriend and girlfriend mentality. I look at some people, they compare boyfriend and girlfriend situations to a marriage. A marriage and a boyfriend and girlfriend situation is not the same. I don't give a damn if you put a title of a hubby or a title of a wifey. It is not the same. A husband and a wife is not comparable to a boyfriend and a girlfriend. I don't give a damn how long y'all been together. And when you brag about how long you've been with your man or your woman and you still haven't gotten married, that says more bad about both of y'all. You sit here talking about we've been together 13, 14, 15 years and y'all still not married. That means he kept you in the girlfriend space for 13, 14, 15 years. So guess what? And then also gave you a seed. So realistically, he don't value or love you the way you think he does. Let me say that again for the people in the back. Ladies and gentlemen, when you brag about how long you've been with somebody and they're not willing to put a ring on it, we're talking about 30 and 40-year-old people. They're not willing to put a ring on it. It really says that he or she may still see that there's something out there for them. They're staying in that situation currently because of the fact that they don't see, they might still think there's something better out there. And this is the truth. To the mothers, I want to say this on record with the utmost crazy respect. I'm bigging you up today. You know, the reason why I'm bigging you up today is because I'm so fascinated how you can have a mother who can work a full-time job, be a full-time mother, and pay full-time bills all by her full-time self and still keep herself together. Yes, she may go in that room, right? She go in that room. You know when she go in that room? She may break down by herself. But every time them children see her, she look like she got it all together. I told a guy the other day, I never realized how poor we was growing up. You know why I didn't realize how poor I was growing up? Because my mom never made me feel we didn't have. What I felt, honestly, and this is my truth, I felt more so that I didn't have a father than anything else. When I look at my life, and this is where a lot of my anger stemmed from, because of what I wanted. But it took me a long time to realize the reason why my story was being written the way it was is because God had a purpose for me. Sometimes when you look at the negatives, you can't see the positives because you don't see that the story is being written for others to be inspired by your story. If you read a book, it starts off winning, in the middle of the book is winning, and it ends with winning, who the hell would want to read that book? But when you read a book, it starts off with struggle, you got up a little bit, you fell back down, you got up again, you fell back down, you fell again, fell all the way down again, you got back up, you fell again, and then ultimately you won. That is the ultimate book that I want to read. Because as I say all the time, there's no struggle, right? There's no struggle without winning. You can't, they coexist with each other. When I sit down every day and tell myself honest truth, tap that screen, guys. When I tell myself the truth, I think I was a horrible dad in the beginning. I think I was a horrible father. And the reason why I say I was a horrible father is because I didn't understand what a father is. I didn't understand how to be a father. What I learned was people that I was around, they always bragged about how much money they gave. So when you brag about how much money you give, in my mind, I'm a good father because I was paying child support. But when I looked at it from an overall and got around real men, The one thing I realized that all the kids is saying now, even the fathers that was there providing, they all say the same thing, whether they had a father that wasn't there providing or a father that was there providing. They said they would trade it all in just to have time. I think once an adult becomes an adult, or logic kicks into the person or the child, logic kicks in and they start realizing that where was the time? Where was the time? So when I started realizing that I wasn't a good father because I wasn't given time, but I was given economics. So in my mind, me giving economics made me a great dad psychologically, but unconscious to my reality, I didn't realize that I was a bad father because of the fact that I wasn't given time. Money should never be equated to how much your children matter. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, if you ask a person right now to tell me what you got for your last 5 Christmases ago, no one remembers. But you can remember a 30-year memory that you and your father walked in a park together. This is how more impactful these things are. You remember a 30-year story ago about the fact that you and your father walked in a park. But you cannot remember what you got for five Christmases ago. Because when we don't realize, right, the impact of life, sitting back looking at my women, I'm watching how much they have to do and still try to keep their composure. A lot of times we say a lot of our black women are angry. Of course they're angry. It's a lot of pressure on them. A lot of black women are very angry because they're pressured. They have a lot of pressure on them. It's too much being done. They don't have, oh my God, let me get into this. Let's get into this. Somebody gonna get upset with me today, but I don't give a damn. A lot of our black women that you see are very angry is because they have to do so much. A woman raising children have to be a nurturer, a provider, and on top of that, be in a relationship with you. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. You know something funny? No matter how you slice it, and I'm gonna be honest, in most cases, men do care about their children's schoolwork and all of that, but men are more, when there's a problem, that's when we address it. Yes, women are more adamant about it before it becomes a problem. Women be on top of their children consistently before the problem actually happens. Men step in when there's a problem already. And I'm gonna be honest. In most cases, men tend to say things after the problem's already there. Women are more proactive with their children on top of it before it becomes a problem. And I will give them that. So when you sit down every day and evaluate the value of a man and a woman, you'll see that they play 2 significant parts. Because if the man picks at the son or the daughter every single day, the words will fall more on deaf ears. But if a mother picks at her kids every day, it'll eventually fall on deaf ears. But what happens is this: the father that says nothing, but when there's a real problem, when he steps in, he checks the child. You know what happens now? Those words are less likely to fall on deaf ears because now we're playing something called good cop, bad cop. Think about the narrative of what I just told you. When a woman is telling her child consistently that you have to be like this, eventually it will fall on deaf ears. But the person that says nothing, now he steps in and check it. And the child sees, damn, only time my father says something when it's really a problem. That's the balance every human needs. That's the balance. That's the balance. But where there's no balance, there will always be problems. Because what goes up will eventually come down. It's just what it is. But when you have these conversations, a lot of people don't understand the realities of life. There is no way I can say I could be a great father without a great mother. And I'm gonna say this again. There is no way I can say I can be a great father without a great mother. And I say this with conviction. There is no way a mother can say she could be a great mother without a great father. And the reason being, because that's the unit. We are great parents. It is one word. It is a collective job when it comes to raising children. No one does a great job alone. Even if you are doing it alone, you have a village. A village. A village. To my man on my live right now, if you're not in your child's life, get back in your child's life. Get back in your child's life. I don't care about the problems you and this woman got. Because I'm going to tell you something. When you get older, that child is not going to care about the problems you and his mother had. I'm going to say that one more time to my man on my live right now. Get back in your kid's life. Because when your child get older, they're not going to care about the problems you and the mother had. They're going to look you in your face and say, you wasn't there for me, you didn't care for me. Children don't understand, and because it's called perception. The way they perceive it is not going to be the way you perceive it. An adult's perspective and a child's perspective is two different perspectives. When a child feels a certain way, they only going to internalize and make it how they feel. Is a child. The logic is not there for a kid. They're going to only see that daddy was not there. And if the roles are reversed to the mothers, they're going to look at mommy like, mommy, you wasn't there. The way these women nowadays are so hyper aggressive, you cannot blame them. You have a woman that we acknowledge all the time is very feeling-based creatures, right? And a lot of times the reason why you say these women are aggressive, because a woman stressed out will always show hyper-aggression because naturally they're feeling-based creatures. Be careful. And that's the logic. But when you have these conversations, we always make things about how we feel. I love the new generation of women. When I see a man say stuff like this, and I'm going on the record and say this, he said, these women are too aggressive. And I said, because of the fact that you're not man enough to handle them. Stop complaining about the aggressive woman if you know that she's not enough for you. It's okay. Because what may not be good for you may be good for someone else. But you cannot blame her for being the way she is when she was raised the way she was, and now it was survival. A lot of us have learned how to survive. Let me say that one more time. When you see these hyper-aggressive women, you learn that that was their means of survival. In order for her to be where she is today, she had to become more aggressive. Let's go to the workforce. When a woman has a title, and let's just say men are under her, in most cases, she has to show her masculine energy to get respect. Because in most cases, if a woman is extremely nice in the workforce, most men will try to take advantage of her. Let me say that again. If a woman is extremely nice in the workforce, in most cases, most men will try to take advantage of her. And also women. So sometimes you learn that we become what we are based on our circumstances, what we've gone through, what we're going through. Sometimes we talk about what we come through, but we're not talking about what we're currently going through. If someone want to call in right now to talk about this topic, call in right now, 516-253-1150. One more time, 516-253-1150. I'm going to pin the comment right now. 516-253-1150. Listen, I don't agree with everybody, but I understand certain habits that you see that we have is based on the way we were raised. A person didn't wake up dirty. They became dirty. A person didn't wake up a thief. They became a thief. A person didn't wake up a liar. They became a liar. A person didn't wake up lazy. They became lazy. It's a becoming that makes you who you are. It's the becoming that makes you who you are. And that's the reality. Are you setting truth or are you keep creating false narratives in your mind? People are the way they are because of circumstances. The other day, a guy asked me, do I respect a thief? I told him it depends. He said, Q, that sounds crazy as hell. How could you ever respect a thief? I said, because it depends on why he stole. He said, elaborate on that. I said, if a person ran into a store and stole formula because he didn't have no money to feed his son or his daughter, I don't call him a thief. I call him a circumstantial. He stole based on his circumstances. But you'll still see it as a thief. Yes, it's wrong, but I understand why he did it. So should certain crimes be held different at different points, harder than others? Yes. And why is that? Because again, when a person has gone through certain things, you'll see certain behavior patterns. A lot of times when you see a person, we only see based on the surface level. My mom was a very aggressive woman because my mother had to be a very aggressive woman to raise men. It's not easy being a single mother raising men. That's not easy, especially men that's feeling themselves, men that think they're already men with no achievements, no accomplishments, no nothing. That's an ego thing. She's had to maintain egos also. One thing I always say about my mom, and I admire her for, is my mother never believed in no retreat, no surrender. My mother was the person that would go down with the ship sinking because she gave it her all. When my mother looked me in my face every time and she say to me, I did the best I could do. And when she said that to me, I wholeheartedly know it's true. Sometimes I realize that some kids or some adults now, they hold their parents to standards they didn't even know. We complain about the fact that our parents didn't teach you financial literacy when your mother's 50 or 60 years old and she still don't even know financial literacy. To me, that's crazy. But you're mad at the fact that your mother couldn't teach you what she didn't know. We're in different times. Different knowledge, different access. There's a lot more access than there was before, right? When we don't talk about the narratives, we create our own narratives. Yes, life may be harder because your mother didn't know, but it was kept away from her in a means of control. It was kept away from your mother as a means of control, information. Because in order to control, I had to make a mind believe that it can't go any further. And right now, in order to control, someone, and I'm not gonna say no names, is creating a narrative that says that if men and women work together, they're gonna do too well. So I gotta create a narrative that makes men and women work against each other, so therefore they can keep failing. Because more than likely, a person that's single will always struggle more than two people. It's not a logic, it's just common sense. It's just common sense. In most cases, more people are struggling in a single parent home than not. In most cases, in a single parent home, more children are massively incarcerated. It's not my opinion. These are things you can Google statistics that they show. They say 70% of the home prison system comes from single parents. And when I look at my men, I'm like, you don't understand that. They say that's the pipeline to the criminal justice system. Look at that narrative. Your mother being a single mother because daddy don't want to step up. Now you basically saying, you know what? I'm going to risk my child becoming incarcerated because I don't want to be there for mine. So sometimes when we fight this argument, and I look at the fact that society, from a total standpoint, is hard, but I look at the fact that the women, when they look me in my eyes, how my mother did, I said a minute ago, they really doing the best they could do. Because it's not easy raising a child by yourself. It's not easy. Especially when you feel guilty and it affects you. And I only know what I'm saying right now. Somebody looking at me like I'm crazy, but look at this. I've been a single father for many years. So a lot of times when women say that they're single mothers, Tyler, I can say I've been a single father for many, many years. So when a person say you don't know what you're talking about, I come from a single mother and I'm also a single father. I was a single father for many years. For many years. Raising my son by myself. To the point where me and my son struggled together in a room. Me and my son had a room together and we shared a room together while going through a divorce. So when people tell you what they assume, an assumption is only an assumption based on what your perception is. People assume what they think they know. But they don't know. A lot of times we see the end of the story, but we don't see the story before the ending. You got to be able to look at things that happened previously to understand. A lot of times we look at the end of the story, but we don't see the story before the ending. And that's a reality. When me and my son struggled together, no one understood that scenario. So I understand from both sides of the coin. I come from a single mother. And not only do I come from a single mother, I know what it feels like to not have anything, right? But why is that? Because of the fact that our mothers are out here struggling to try to keep a roof over our children's heads. While a lot of these men are out there chasing women, procreating more life to go through the same generational traumas that he may have gone through. One of the number one generational traumas I believe that's normal and that's happening on and on and on is a curse. It's men making babies, not taking care of their babies, letting them fend for the world to figure it out. And what happens is these boys become men who make babies who never help raise their children. I'm seeing this vicious cycle like this. It's a cycle. It's a cycle. Let me say that again. You'll take a man who comes from a man who didn't help raise him, right? And then that man, who's the offspring, will create a child, not raise that child, and repeat the same trauma that he's been through, and it becomes a cycle. And by the time you look, you're talking 6, 7, 10 generations of this. Generations of fathers not raising their children. So when you say a lot of these women are very angry and upset, I get why. Because I'm gonna call it on record, it's not easy being a single mother. Especially when you got a bunch of insecure children. Right? Because I'm gonna tell you something. 2 hands. Imagine being on your left side and your right side, right? Your parents are holding both of your hands. And you know what they're supposed to do with you? They're supposed to walk you into adulthood by teaching you and showing you how to be. You didn't hear me. You got 2 hands. Imagine having a father on your left holding your left and your mother holding your right hand, and they walking you into adulthood. That's how it's supposed to be. That is the natural essence of how a child should be raised. You know what somebody gonna say? That's not how it is no more. It's not like that no more because we're not accountable for who we have children with. They're pushing this baby mama and baby daddy culture. And we've normalizing this thinking. I promised myself, I come from the generation of baby mamas. I promised myself my children will not be baby daddies and baby mothers. I told my son, if you choose to make a child with a girl, you want her gonna settle down. I tell my daughters the same thing. If you choose to have a baby, y'all better be ready to settle down. Because I'm tired of seeing so many broken homes. And then we push this to be a normal narrative. And what happens is this, your grandchildren will ultimately be the same people pushing that same narrative. Being a baby father. I met a guy the other day, well, a young man, 28 years old, 10 kids. And we're sitting down talking. He has 10 kids, 10 different mothers. And he's talking like it's nothing. And I'm sitting here saying, right now you're a scammer. But the day you choose to get your life together, child support gonna be on your behind. And the sad part is, the women that he's procreating life with on government assistance and welfare. So I'm sitting here telling him like, brother, what is wrong with you? He was like, man, these girls keep having my baby. Listen to how crazy you sound. These girls are having your baby. You had 10 different children by 10 different women. And we're gonna blame the women? And we can't see the decisions that we're making? When I look at you today in today's society, right? And how delusional and insecure people are, you'll see why the world is so broken. To my women, I don't blame you for being so hyper-aggressive. I don't blame you for being angry. Because it is frustrating. Because the last time I checked, it was 2 people that laid there. So sometimes you see these girls mad as hell. Yeah, they mad. You don't think they have a reason to be mad? I don't think no real human in their right mind is signing up with the intentions of being a single mother in their right mind. And when I say in their right mind, I'm not talking about someone that comes from a broken family. Most people that come from broken families, they tend to create broken families. We're talking about someone in their right mind. I don't think they're signing up to not have their child's father in their life, in their child's life, unless they have mental illness or issues. It has to be something wrong with them. Because no human in their right mind will subscribe to that. Right? But now when we have this logic where we don't see that there's an agenda that's being pushed, if I can do this, if I can keep separating the power, which is unity, there will be no power, because where there's no unity, there's no power. So if I can create the women to hate the men, and I can make the men hate the women, I'll ultimately make the babies. Remember Tupac said, we're going to find a race of men that'll be raised by the ladies that'll learn how to hate the ladies. I don't know that statement he said. Google that statement for me. A race of babies that'll hate the babies. This is what you're starting to see today. A race of men who hate the women because of their circumstance, and then you have a race of women who hate the men because of their circumstances of how they were raised. You're seeing this whole cycle continue to repeat, and we don't see nothing wrong with this. Let me read this real quick. Let me read it. He says, where's that? I want you to hear this statement. This is Tupac, one of the greatest poets, right, of ever. He said, and if we don't, we will have a race of babies that will hate the ladies, that will make the babies, and since a man can't make one, he has no right to tell a woman when to create one, right? He said, now you're seeing the race of babies who are growing to hate the ladies, right? And this is going to be the cycle until we break it. Because as long as we allow ourselves to not see that there's a bigger agenda than just us, because I'm going to tell you something, I don't have to put shackles on people in order to control them. I can control their minds. And if I can control your minds, it's worse than your body. Because if I control your mind, I definitely control your body. Because I'm going to tell you something, it is worse when someone controls your mind rather than your body. Because I'm going to tell you something, you can feel pain physically but not feel it mentally. You could be in an environment physically but not be there mentally. But if I can make your mind there psychologically, I can control your body, because your body moves when your mind say move. So if I can make your mind move, I can make your body move. And they understand that. This is the race of babies that hate the ladies. I listen to men talk to women like dogs, like trash. Because I'm going to say this to my men right now that's going to get mad. The reason why you talk to women like that is because how you feel about yourself. You hate yourself, so you hate the woman that's standing next to you, because it is naturally proven that the person that loves you the most, you want to hurt them the most because of how you feel, and you know they're going to keep tolerating your garbage. But if I say this, I'm the villain, because I'm here to tell the truth. I don't hate my women. I don't hate my brothers. I hate the narratives that's being pushed in our minds to believe foolishness. I'm going to tell you something. When you look at yourself in the mirror and you're not honest with yourself, there is no way in hell you can tell me you love yourself. I'm going to say this again. When you look in the mirror and you look at yourself and you're not honest with yourself, there is no way in hell you can say you love yourself. Because I'm going to tell you something, some of the most aggressive people are the most hurt people. Some of the most angry people are the most depressed people. Some of the most aggressive people are some of the most hurt people. And that's what you're not seeing. It's all the hurt emotions coming out in energy. A bitter person only knows how to be bitter based on the fact that they're bitter inside. Because a human only projects how they feel about themselves. So if I can't love my sisters as a man, there's no way I can say I love myself. There's a scripture in the Bible, I want to say this. God says, and I want you to pull it up. He says about, he said, who he say loves God is a liar. Because if you can't love your brothers and sisters, there's no way you can say you love me. I want to say it right? Because if you look at that narrative, and we talk about these things, there is no way I can love me and not love my sisters. Where my sister is weak, I will be strong at. That's what a real man would say, right? I want you to hear this. 1 John. Okay, 1 John 4:20. For whoever does not love their brother and sister, whom they have seen, cannot love God, who they have not seen. Let me say that again. For whoever said that they love God, they say they don't love their brothers and sisters, who they have seen, could never say they love God, who they have not seen. It is impossible to love someone you haven't seen, but not love someone you've seen. You have to love someone you've seen before you can love someone you haven't seen. Because in order to love him, you have to love your siblings first. So I can confidently say, I love my brothers and sisters. This is why I do what I do. Because I love who I haven't seen. I love who I haven't seen, but in order for me to love him, I have to love who I've seen first. But you don't want to love those people. You want to justify your poor behaviors, your undisciplined ways, your insecurities, right? You want to justify all your ways, but not look at yourself in the mirror. Because I'm going to tell you something. No one can see you better than someone else that's looking dead at you. A mirror is a reflection. But I'm going to tell you something. Sometimes you could hide the mirror of what you truly are. A mirror don't tell you the whole story, right? And that's what you don't understand. We got to be able to talk logic and truth, right? When I sit down and see how a woman has to teach a woman how to become a woman, a man has to teach a man how to become a man. If we're not holding hands, right, and walking these young men and women into adulthood, how can we complain about their immaturities? When mommy and daddy still want to be young. When mommy still want to turn up and daddy don't want to be there. I don't give a damn about what your baby mama ain't. It's about what your children need to be. I say this again, I don't give a damn about what your baby mama ain't. It's about what your children need to be. I don't care about what your baby daddy ain't. It's about what your children need to be. Because if you really love your children, you'll learn how to respect each other, to cohabitate or intermingle to help these children become somebodies. The ultimate sacrifice is two people working together because of the fact that they care about their children. That's a good parent. Because at the end of the day, no matter how I slice it, my child, knowing his mother, will ultimately give them a better life. It's just what it is. Someone calling right now, 516-253-1150 before we get out of here today. 516-253-1150, right? It is important to have people in your life that is showing you how to be. When a person says this, and I want to go on record when I say this before I get out of here. I was taught as a child, a woman could never raise a man. And you know something sad? I met men who had real men in their house and had examples. And I never had a man in my house. And I turned out to be a better man than most of them. Let me say that again. I was always taught as a child that a woman, I was always taught as a child as a woman could never raise a man. But when I look at myself, who was raised by a single mother, I turned out to be more manly than men who were raised with both parents in their house. Because sometimes you have to learn how to teach accountability. You have to teach financial maturity. You have to teach financial literacy. You have to teach the child to be the man you would date. So if I look at my daughter, and I'm not saying this on no freaky, no diddy crap. I'm talking logic. If I look at my daughter, I'm going to teach her how to be the woman I would marry if I'm considerably a good father or a good man. If I'm raising my son, I'm going to teach him how to be the man that I know a woman will want to date. Right? Why is that? Because I realize that in order to help society become better, we have to become better ourselves. You can never help society become better if you haven't helped yourself become better. Because I'm going to tell you, sickness could be so infectious. Some of the most beautiful people you could ever come across in life could be some of the sickest people you could ever meet. Because sometimes a contagious person don't project from the outside, it comes from the inside. The most insecure people are some of the most beautiful people you'll ever meet. Because the mind is contagious. It projects how it feels. When I look at my sisters, and I want to tell you, ladies, I'm giving you your flowers. Based on circumstances, a lot of y'all have definitely risen the bar. I don't want to bring in another year, another month, looking at it as it's normal for a woman to have to raise a child by herself. I don't want to bring that in. But before I leave today, I want to ask this question, right? If you have a lot of older women, right, who see where they went wrong when they were younger, right? Especially in the dating world. Meaning, the guy that was corny, that they said was corny, was the guy that ultimately turned out successful. Ladies, why are we raising girls to still go chase behind the bad guys, knowing the ultimate result would be your daughter, your niece, or your cousin losing? It don't make sense to me. Look at that narrative. Ladies, we all know at our older age, the guys that the women consider corny and cornballs will be the one that'll be corny and lit later. But yet and still, why are you not sitting these girls down and tell them to go chase those guys? Why are you still bringing those bad guys around your daughters, your aunts, and your nieces and all of them now in your later years, knowing what the outcome is? Why do I ask that? Because if you really care about your niece, your nephews, your cousins, or your family, you want to teach them the opposite of where you went wrong. But the procreator mentality, knowing that it's going to fail, and you're a part of that failure, you're really the loser. To procreator mentality that you know that will lead to failure, and you allow it, you're the real loser. Because in reality, if I am a father that chose a certain type of woman, argumentative, who likes to fight physically, and see that this is a problem, by any means, I'm going to make sure my son avoids those girls by all means, because I see the outcome of it. But I'm looking now, in 2024, some of these women are still not teaching these girls to avoid the bad guys, ultimately going towards becoming what? Baby mamas. Why are we doing this again? When we know it's wrong. We got to break the narrative, guys. But again, when you look at the fact that people are not trying to teach the next generation how to think forward, it's because you want the problem because of how you feel about yourself. Humble is love. But I want to say this to my mothers. I love you. I value you. I appreciate you. I think what you have done is so little, the degrees that you've obtained and the success you women have gotten to this point, I got to give you your flowers. To my mothers who tuned in today, this is not a shot or fight or a war. This is a verbal jab to raise awareness. Let's put our guard up. So when I do these verbal jabs, it's to raise our awareness, put our guard up. Not our guard up to be defensive. Our guard up to be receptive, to see the reality. So when we talk about certain things, it's not for you to put up your guard to defend truth. It's you to put up your guard so you can hear truth. Till next time, guys. Don't let that go over your head.